What's interesting about a person's aesthetic sense is that it bases itself in their experiences and perception, and this goes doubly for creators, making their works reflect, in some measure, their own environment. In the case of Gege Akutami's Jujutsu Kaisen, the cultural and historic context of the author permeates the deeper stylistic nuances of the series. Fortunately for you guys, I came to college here in Spain to study Australian history, so I assure you I'm uniquely qualified to explain—
Yeah, about that.
Anime's Japanese? Seriously? Sounds like Australian English to me. Isn't that why we have the subtitles? Damn it. Back to the drawing board. The shonen genre has never been averse to the use of religious references and mythological caricatures, but what merits investigation in this specific series is how its cultural background, the interplay of Buddhist and Shinto elements in Japan, constitutes the thematic core of the series. The premise of Jujutsu Kaisen sources itself from Shinto lore, specifically the idea of curses, noroi, and purification, harai. While the latter is functionally translated as exercise, the nuance of harau is a bit different. In Shinto lore, wrongdoings accumulate kegare, a cosmic reaction to immorality, but this isn't quite the same as karma, since kegare on its own doesn't care if the action was intentional and doesn't produce any kind of judgment. Kegare is a form of defilement that impacts not just you, but the community around you, and getting rid of it requires purification, harai. In the context of Jujutsu Kaisen, this means that the main characters take the role of Shinto priests, purifying communities of the curses their own actions produce. If only it were that simple. Let's not forget the fight fire with fire premise. Jujutsu sorcerers use curses for exorcism, and there are signs of how that bleeds into their psyches.
呪術師は常に死と隣り合わせ、自分の死だけでない。呪いに殺された人を横目に、呪いの肉を切り裂かねばならんこともある。
Traditionally, all contact with death is considered a source of pollution in Shinto, so this was an early sign of the need for sorcerers to take on kegare, to become cursed, in order to rise above curses. The tendency of sorcerers to become self-obsessed, detached, or just batshit crazy may derive from the fact that they're losing themselves in the spiritual sense. Let's look at the curses themselves. Written as noroi, the connotation is different from kegare, which means impurity in a general sense, whereas noroi is used to refer to a written curse. The implication seems to be that noroi are structured and specific, as opposed to a loose, cosmic force like kegare. Interestingly, over the course of the series, the term is also used to refer to personal obligations, promises, and traumas, all of which line up more with the English nuance of the word curse. Let's remember though, kegare is supposed to spread communally, so whether you generate it on purpose or not is irrelevant. This is why Shinto festivals feature large-scale purifications aimed towards the entire community. And that clearly translates to the show, where sorcerers assign no culpability to the general public for subconsciously creating curses. If anything, individuals like Geto that do address the source and try to troubleshoot are seen as going into taboo territory. Jujutsu sorcerers accept the general public as the source of curses and risk their lives to fight these aberrations. They don't question the status quo or go around blaming ordinary people because they know it's an unintentional consequence of the human condition. Looking at the curses themselves, there's a recurring Buddhist motif to their abilities and aesthetic. Take Jogo's Coffin of the Iron Mountain, which makes reference to the Chakravada Parvata, the outermost mountain range in ancient Buddhist and Hindu cosmology. It's supposed to be the ends of the known world, an iron mountain range that bounds the universal seas. How do I know this? Luckily for you, I came to college to study volcanic geology. If you look closely enough at the mountain in this frame, you can see me reaching deep into my ass to come up with a good explanation. Look, I just got this off the internet, just like my PhD thesis, okay? Don't judge me! There's also a certain someone whose domain touches on Buddhist tenets, but it's Mahito, the most human of these curses, that captures the thematic exploration and perversion of Buddhist thought.
見える俺にとって魂は肉体と同じで何も特別じゃない。ただそこにあるだけだ。わかる？命に価値や重さなんてないんだよ。天地にとっての水のように命もただ巡るだけだ。
While most curses show a blatant disregard for human life, Mahito justifies that human lives continue their cycle with no regard for morality, a reference to the cycle of rebirth, samsara, and in a sense, he's right. While good karma or bad karma can get you reincarnated into one of the better or worse of the 6 realms, the Buddha himself taught that this cycle was fundamentally pointless. The higher realms saturate you with luxury, accumulating your bad karma to reincarnate you in a lower realm, which punishes you to build up your good karma and promote you, generating a pointless, endless cycle. The main goal of Buddhism is to achieve enlightenment, or moksha, and break free of this cycle of suffering. But Mahito doesn't seek enlightenment. His ability allows him to understand the nature of the soul, so he's perfectly content laughing at how inconsequential human life is. This is in itself a sin, since Buddhism advocates the importance of those with knowledge using it to save others. The first half of his signature curse technique, idle transfiguration, makes reference to just that, being idle or lazy to his philosophical responsibilities. Then there's his domain, self-embodiment of perfection. The first 2 kanji, read jihei, refer to a state of isolating oneself. The kanji for endon refers to the Tendai Buddhist precept of quick and immediate enlightenment, because that's what he's doing, taking a quick and easy path to enlightenment, a selfish approach to the truth of the universe that isolates and suits his individual needs. He indulges in his desires, revels in sadistic amusement, and justifies it by his twisted ideology that the cycle of rebirth is inconsequential anyways. He brands this as a form of enlightenment, but as with the name of his domain, it's self-enlightenment, his own convenient interpretation of what humanity is. In the context of Buddhist thought, Mahito represents nihilism. He possesses knowledge on the nature of life, but accepts it all defeatist instead of trying to overcome it. So it's fitting that by the end of the Shibuya arc, all the other curses have passed on but await the reunion upon reincarnation, but Mahito alone is absorbed by Kenjaku's Uzumaki, not allowing him to return to the cycle he claimed was pointless. And honestly, the little shit had it coming. Shinto might not believe in karma, but Buddhism's all over it, except there was nothing karmic about this. #killsteal, #justice for Yuji. We don't know too much about Hanami's abilities, so that should do it for the curses. I might be forgetting someone, but probably not.
俺の魂に触れるか。共に腹の底から小僧を笑った仲だ。一度は許す。二度はない。
You would think that's all there is to say on the matter. Shinto and Buddhism form loose aesthetic umbrellas around the sorcerers and curses, but unfortunately, it's not that simple. Trust me, if there's anything I've learned coming to college to pursue religious studies, it's that the interplay of cultures is rarely simple. Take the interactions between Buddhism and Shinto in Japan. While Shinto is an indigenous religion that's been around longer than we care to prove, Buddhism came into Japan through China around the 6th century. It was mainly significant for importing ideas on governments and philosophy from the mainland, leading to changes in the administrative structure, notably through the Taika reforms of, wow, that history major's coming in handy. Bottom line, Shinto and Buddhism coexisted for centuries. Shinto deities even merged with Buddhist practices without much friction, possibly reflecting how Jujutsu sorcerers, in spite of their role to purify, embrace the things they fight. Mirroring the adoption of curses as tools is the formation of the big 3 sorcerer families. On one hand, they're canonically descended from Japan's 3 great vengeful spirits, but the timeline and structure of these families partially reflect the formation of Buddhist temples and sects around similar points in time. This view is supported by Satoru Gojo. The result of centuries of cultivating inherited techniques, it can be considered the end goal of the clan system, so it's telling that he's compared to the Buddha himself. Consider his fight with Toji, a man who draws explicit parallels to the Monkey King Sun Wukong, being rejected by the heavenly houses, using countless skills and abilities, being the best character, which makes Gojo the Buddha, the honored one who steps in to quell the monkey's arrogance. It's not hard to draw the parallels when you consider how much the series loves presenting Gojo like a literal god. Just like Buddhist sects aspire for enlightenment or Buddhahood, the clans aspire for preserving cursed techniques to create powerful sorcerers. Basically, more Gojos. And yet the clan's pursuit can only be considered a failure. Not only has it turned them cold and heartless, they're also explicitly hated by their god. In adopting elitist principles to the extent of neglecting their own, the clans have strayed from their original purpose of protecting the people. It wouldn't be an understatement to say that in their obsession with inherited curses, the clans have become curses themselves. Philosophical misunderstandings seem to be common in this series, be it Mahito's mistaken claims at enlightenment or the great clans losing sight of their purpose. The most obvious may be the Zenin clan failing to see that the heavenly restriction they disdain actually holds more potential than their precious cursed techniques. I should take a moment to clarify one thing. By no means am I suggesting these comparisons say anything about either religion. I'm not qualified to comment on the subject, nor do I believe Jujutsu Kaisen is attempting to do so. I just found these parallels interesting, since they show how the story is always blurring lines between morality, between religious influences, between human and curse. Some of this can be explained by the environment the story was crafted in. Japan is a secular country where the practice of its two major religions were never treated as exclusive, allowing the rituals, influences, and tenets of Buddhism and Shinto to blend freely. But if I had to say, the real reason Jujutsu Kaisen draws from so many sources, brings so many perspectives, and still stays ambiguous is because it doesn't matter. At its core, Jujutsu Kaisen is a story about priorities. We all live anticipating the end, and as Wasuke Itadori realized on his deathbed, the only thing that matters is connections. All the power, status, and rank in the world is meaningless if it distances you from basic compassion. To Jujutsu Kaisen, the elaborate institutions, practices, and philosophies of its real-world influences don't matter as much as their basic tenets of helping others and building communities. Even the pursuit of enlightenment, which draws parallels here to the shonen goal of becoming the strongest, is undercut by the simple thought that living and dying for the people you care about is a life well spent. Although possibly founded with service in mind, the Jujutsu world devolved into a mess of bureaucracy and dogma, becoming too detached from the people it was supposed to serve. And to me, this backdrop of ambiguity, elitism, and religious symbolism is Gege Akutami's critique of how complicated it can be to commit a simple act of kindness. You have my thanks for watching. While not structured enough to be a full analysis, I appreciate you guys for sticking around to hear my thoughts. Also, stats, socials, you know the drill, right? Oh, and for those of you wondering, I'm actually a math major. Sorry I got a little carried away in the video. I'm not great at basic honesty. That's why I'm studying political science.